Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Discipleship program video. As most of you know, I'm Nico, and today we're talking about the month of Elul. I did some research on it, and here's what I found. Elul is the 12th and final month of the Jewish civil calendar. According to tradition, this is the time when God is most ready to hear our requests and listen to our fervent prayers. And it's supposed to be a time of great inner reflection. The start of Elul is 40 days before Yom Kippur and is considered a time of preparation for Yom Kippur. Now, I thought this was interesting because this may have parallels with Yeshua's 40 days in the wilderness. Perhaps that was in preparation for Yom Kippur. Tradition suggests that this may reflect the 40 weeks a baby develops in its mother's womb, thus symbolizing the birth of a new self upon Yom Kippur. I don't know if that was necessarily God's intention, but I think it's a beautiful thing to keep in mind, really. The idea that on Yom Kippur you are born to a new version of yourself, not just born again once in your lifetime when you accept the sacrifice of Messiah and choose to follow God, but rather to be born again and again and again as many times as you need. Resurrected from the death that sin brings to us. So every day of Elul, the shofar is blown and psalms are recited in preparation for the upcoming High Holy Days. Traditionally, the shofar is blown each morning, except on Shabbat, from the first day of Elul until the day before Rosh Hashanah. Its sound is intended to awaken the soul and kickstart the spiritual accounting that happens throughout the month. In some congregations, the shofar is sounded at the opening of each Kabbalat Shabbat service during Elul. It is customary to read Psalm 27 each day from the beginning of Elul through Hoshana Rabbah, which is the last day of Sukkot. In the famous Song of Moses, it is written, "And they spoke, saying, I will sing to the Lord," Exodus 15:1. This phrase can be formed into an acronym for Elul, and the sages therefore reasoned that hearing the Psalms were vital during the season of repentance and days of fervor. Elul is called the month of repentance, the month of mercy, and the month of forgiveness. And during this time it is traditional to visit loved ones' graves. Elul is also a time of year during which the Jews traditionally visit the graves of loved ones. This custom not only reminds us of the individuals on whose shoulders we now stand and helps us honor their memories, but also prompts us to think about our own lives and the legacies we leave to others. The letters in Elul are supposedly an acronym for a line from the Song of Songs. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. This is also the month when it is said the king is in the field, which is a very interesting tradition, this idea that God is out and walking among us during Elul. A field is a place where grain grows, and growing grain and converting it into the food which sustains us requires a great deal of effort, and this effort symbolizes the full scope of our activities within our mundane sphere. It's essentially the place where our everyday lives are taking place. So God comes in to be part of our everyday lives. Thus, it is our duty to bring godliness into the physical world through our obedience and good works. The revelation of the King's presence in our lives is dependent upon the study of Torah. In short, we won't really notice his presence unless we have studied Torah and we know what kinds of signs to look for. The men of the field need not forego their ordinary activities entirely and devote themselves solely to Torah study. This is not what God desires, so the rabbis say. In the parable, when the king passes through the field, the people pause from their work and approach him. Similarly, during Elul, although the men of the field continue their daily activities, because they are aware of the king's presence, they should increase their Torah study. Special prayers for forgiveness, selakot, are also said during this month. These prayers and poems for mercy are usually recited before dawn, before the daily shacharit, or morning service. The list of the 13 attributes of God's mercy, Shalosh Esrei Medot Shel Rakamim, are the primary focus of the prayers, based on the Talmud's statement that whenever the nation of Israel sins, let them pray this prayer, i.e. the 13 attributes, and I shall forgive them. You can find that in Rosh Hashanah 17b in the Talmud. The prayer states, merciful God, powerful God, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abundant in kindness and truth, preserver of kindness for thousands of generations, forgiver of iniquity, willful sin, and error, and who cleanses, which I think is a reference to, it looks like Exodus 34, 6 through 7. In general, Selachot services are intended to guide us toward an examination of our lives and to undergo teshuvah. In Sephardic tradition, Selachot services begin at the start of Elul and run until Yom Kippur, similar to the 40 days Moses spent on Mount Sinai. Through the Ashkenazic tradition, they are recited late, i.e. midnight, on the Saturday night prior to Rosh Hashanah. This is the time for man to take initiative in his relationship with God. Though the potential is initially granted from above, the nurturing of the love relationship depends on man's initiative. The revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy is merely a catalyst. In going out to the field, the king makes himself accessible to his people. It is the people, however, who take the step of turning to him. So in short, Elul is the time to start preparing for Yom Kippur, to do whatever it is that you need to do in order to become closer to God. It would be a time of prayer, of study, and understanding the idea that God is walking among us. Now, I would say that that's always true. God is always here among us in our midst. He's omnipresent. But this is a time for us to be more aware of that fact. So, hope you got something out of this, and we'll see you next time.